deal going on
Yeah.
YouTube Live.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
The police are looking like, oh, this is easy.
Oh, that's actually the whole thing went on stream as well. Perfect.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Külapood Live, Külapood Kodus, here in our own homes. I'm still Karl. Let's do the opening that we should. Like the shopkeep at the Külapood is slowly looking at the furs on the wall of destiny of the hunting lodge of time that they are currently residing in. In the same way, our show has started today. I am Karl-Alari Varma. With me, still in his own home, down below me, not in every sense, but in some senses, not in the comedy sense.
In your dreams, man, in your dreams.
It's Ardo Asperk.
I do.
I just opened the monster and it smells of apple, so I'm worried.
It's been in your house a bit too long.
Yeah, that's genuinely disturbing. Hello, but
yeah, monster degrades into genuine food.
Yeah, the half time it becomes healthy. Oh no! But with us, our guest today is Caleb Brunick. On my side, he's a comedian who performed at the Värske Veri, or Fresh Blood, show, tour that aired this year, in the beginning of the year, before everything went to shit. And,
back when it was an old world.
Yeah, when we're still allowed to see each other, touch each other, and other things with each other. And yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about Caleb. He is not Estonian. That is also why we're doing this show in English. He's American from the United States of America, as united as they are right now. And
land of the free, home of the brave.
Yeah, quick political jab in the beginning. Let's move quickly on.
Don't give him time to respond.
Yeah, the somewhat United States of America. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about his sort of experiences of doing stand-up here in Estonia in English, and generally starting out stand-up here, and sort of also growing up in a country, or at least being born in a country where the sort of stand-up was more ingrained in the culture of every day, where basically there was stand-up beforehand. So let's start this stuff up. Hello, Caleb. How are you feeling?
I'm a bit tired actually today. I'm in Kolkia on Pepsi, and so me and my girlfriend's brother probably spent about 3-4 hours, just doing stuff on the lake, and we went to sauna twice, so that's fun, doing all that stuff, and it's just
okay.
After being 25 days in the house, just minimal activity, and I'm just dead.
Yeah,
like, enjoying the country life.
Oh, I love, like, if it wasn't so remote to the point where it's it's not an hour drive, but it feels like an hour drive just to go to Tartu, I think I could live here.
Yeah.
Full time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, you said like 3. Oh, I had Messenger left open. So I closed that quickly. So you said like 3 times in the sauna in like a day or something. I can see why you're tired.
Yeah. So like last night we had one really long sauna, and then today, because we got a new toy, so I had to play with the new toy, which is it's like a surfboard, but it's got a motor strapped to it.
You finally explained, because up to this point it's sort of like me and my girlfriend's brother. We did things on the lake, and then we had long sauna sessions together, and just doing things, and like never at one point did you say anything like what were you doing or anything. Finally we have some context. Okay, it's motorized skateboard. Please continue.
Yeah, so we had like this surfboard with a motor strap. It's built into it, so it goes at like I don't know the top speeds. Yeah, like we're maxing out at 40 because we have it on the safer setting. Okay. Tomorrow we'll put it at 50 kilometers an hour, and then we have the jet ski as well. So we were just doing that, but because it's so cold, once you get out of your wetsuit and you're done, you have to go to sauna, otherwise you get hypothermia. So you're in the sauna for 20 minutes, and then That's 20 minutes. You're just sweating, and then you're eating, and then you're going back to the cold, and then you're back to the hot, and then you're like, now I do a live stream, and I had a presentation to do today, so I did that as well. Okay. So it's I'm all over the place right now.
Yeah. So were you like on Lake Peipsi, like with the motorized surfboard, like heading towards the Russian border and seeing if the guards show up or something?
I think we maybe went out 2-3 kilometers from the coastline. We didn't get too far out, but it was like right now is like the best time to be on, I think, because I only saw one boat the entire time, and I think the last couple hours the water's really calmed down, so it's really really just glassy. So even if you're in the jet ski, right, your turns and you're trying to feel like you're trying to drift, or you're doing like sharp turns, it's just glass smooth. Okay. And because I normally wakeboard a lot, so that's like my bread and butter right behind like snowboard powder. So
okay. That's cool. I mean, it's good that you actually get to go outside and sort of be active and sort of still do things.
Yeah, it was great. I think because we my girlfriend rides horses, so she has to go to the stables every day, and we got a new dog, so now we're because it's a husky, we have to go on at least an hour walk every day. So the walks, they're great, but after 25 days of just doing walks after walks after walks, and it's the same loop, it gets very mundane. So this last couple 36 hours has been such an enjoyable time to experience something new and be fresh, and really let the creative juices start flowing and how you feel about them. So,
beforehand, you were just stuck at home, or how's the situation been like for you, basically?
I've been out of the house maybe 3-4 times for very specific things, like going to the studio to go record some podcasts. But every other than that, or going to the stables with my girl, it's been in the house all the time. Not leaving. And like, I really like cooking, but even cooking got boring to me. And it was like just throwing shit together just to like, maybe this works. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
So now I like, it's all good now. That's all good. It's all good.
The sauna makes everything better.
Yeah, the trick is to tire yourself out so much that you can't like feel.
Yeah, you just walk out
anymore.
20 times better.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about stand-up as well then. Like, what was your first? Do you remember your first sort of contact with stand-up at all? Like, anybody you admired, or because you grew up in America, right? Or where did you grow up in?
I'm originally from New York, but I did the math. I think out of my 21 years on Earth, I've maybe been 5 years in the States of my life. So everywhere else I was overseas. So my parents had me very young, and when my my dad joined the Marine Corps.
Your connection
we moved down to North Carolina,
is quite
then
bad,
we went to
I have
Japan
to
for
say.
3 years, and then we got back to New York. Yeah.
No, it's fine. We'll make it work. It's just there's nothing really you can do about it. It's fine.
Yeah, I think my girlfriend's mom, she's going back to school, and so I think she's running the internet as well. In this space that has a good internet, so I don't know. It's going to be back and forth.
Okay, we'll see. As long as nobody's like torrenting stuff, someone pirating in the back, just like, oh, I've got a new episode of this show coming up.
10 hours of cat videos and like.
Yeah, that would be bad if the sort of downgrade in the connection is because someone's put on the 10-hour loop of bringing the Hobbit Isengard on, just chilling to that, right?
I think like maybe I would respect that though.
Oh yeah.
Like if you were able to listen to the 10 hours of that. I think it's working fine now. But no, I grew up in Japan, Kenya, Germany. I spent the last 3 years of high school in Turkey. And then right after I graduated high school in May of 2017, and then I was my first day officially moving to Estonia was on August 1st, 2017.
Okay.
So I've been here 2.5 years, almost 3. And growing up, I always watched blue collar comedy with Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Ron White, and Larry the Cable Guy. So I grew up with them, and up until like my second year here, I was very just prone to like watching comedy casually. Like I watched the Chappelle, the Louis C.K., just watch whatever's on Netflix essentially.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Sloss's X came out, and remember watching that with my girlfriend. And then I looked to her, I was like, do you think I could do that? Because I think I could do that. Like it doesn't seem that difficult. And then boy was I wrong. But I watched it, and then I texted Comedy Estonia, and then that was the start of my career. Of course you do what every open micer does here, where you get like 4 or 5 mics if you're lucky, 5 mics if you're lucky for the first couple months to do every show. And then just I realized really early on is like just got to do good, and so I just kept doing it, and that was like my experience with it. But I don't think like I ever really started looking into like comedy as an art form and a craft and started examining it until I became a comedian, because then I realized I have to look at my contemporaries in the higher up, the guys that are popping or they're big, or like who came before me. If I want to be these guys one day, I have to understand why they got there, and that's kind of does that? I don't think that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a good sort of answer, because you also answered that you didn't grow up in America, such you weren't in the culture all the time, like with stand-up is. But I guess that probably through your parents or something as well, that there is still that, hey, this is also an art form you might like kind of thing, right? Because in Estonia you didn't have like from my dad I got like the love for old sort of radio drama, not dramas but radio comedies and stuff like that you'd get, but that was very specific to the age it was in, because it was all about telling about the Soviet Union around the corner and stuff like that, and satire through hidden means. But that wasn't quite stand-up in that sense. It was all audio-based, but it's still a different purpose and different things to it. So
like in the West, I guess it's much more like stand-up is something that is just, it's around, it's there and people know about it. Whilst in Estonia, it was this really new thing up until, 5 years ago.
I mean, like for me, the question Dan doesn't say it, but he points it out, and like other people point out, they're like, why are you doing stand up here? Like you're from New York. You're from the birthplace of stand up. You gotta be in New York, baby. One, I'm not from New York City. I'm from 3 hours. Like if you drove from Tallinn to Elva, that's how far you have to drive to get from my hometown from New York north.
So you're in New York State.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Estonians probably don't know the difference of the city and the whole state.
Yeah, the state's like the size of all the Baltics together, just kind of like squished in a different way. So I'm from Central New York, and we have a scene. We have a good scene there. I think it's growing. I haven't experienced it myself, so I can't really say. But for me, what I love so much about like the scene here is because it's so raw to an extent, but it's just like people. It's like you want to be part of it. It's not just like everyone's like, I got to do my type 5 so the Comedy Store recognizes me and maybe I get on Conan. It's like, no, it's like there's Lewis and there's you, like there's you guys, there's everyone else. Like you just want to do good and you want to make people laugh, and it like I just love that part of the community, and that's why like I love the scene here and why I want to continue doing comedy for at least a year or so before I feel ready to bust out and expand. Is my connection like really bad though?
A little bit. Occasionally it drops. Not all the time.
All right.
Yeah.
Just flip me off when it's really bad.
Now, like it's bad for a sentence or two, but apart from that, it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I think as much as I've seen the scenes sort of in other places as well, from an outsider's look, I do think that we have a very sort of good community of comedians here, that we're not as hostile or backstabby to each other than might find in certain places, because I guess a lot of us also realize that because of the size of the market, I mean, sure, there is a cap, but also, like, it's not quite as cutthroat because it's not as saturated yet as you have in the US or the UK or Australia or somewhere else, where the part of economics comes in, where you're thinking like, well, there's a certain amount of spots and I need to destroy somebody else. I need to destroy anybody who's trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So we still try and help each other a bit more. And
I think that's why the general quality of comedians here is very good. Of course, I mean, like, talking open micers, it's open micers. You got the Värske Veri guys, the guys coming up. We're still learning, so I'm not going to be like, oh, we're the best shit ever. But there is a reliable sense of quality. But especially with the core guys, there's a consistent quality when it comes to like premiere shows and even open mics. It's consistently good, to the point where because there is not so much of an idea of competition, you don't see like, oh, I have to figure out how to be better than that person. It's like, how do I just give him like a nugget of advice, or like, hey, here's the situation. I think this might work, but this didn't work. How do you think about this? And then maybe that helps them get better. And there's a much more a sense of, you can do this, just try harder. And it really drives, I think, the entire community that makes us better overall.
I feel that's also part of the honesty in the community, that we'll say when things are bad, like when something doesn't work or something, or when they're out of line, but we also do say when something's good, right? And because of the honesty, I think everybody gives feedback to pretty much everybody, and in any situation you do feel like, hey, it's let's just, we're all in it together in a way, because it's also us showing the level of stand-up as in Estonia in general, right? Everybody is representing not just a brand or themselves, but also stand-up as an art form. And I feel that because most of us do take it seriously as an art form, or doing it because we love it and we want it to prosper, not just us, but also stand-up in general, because we all love stand-up. We want it to prosper, so we try to do our best to help just stand up, get better, right? I
think that's the big thing about Comedy Estonia, is that it's kind of good that it was started by foreigners, because they got the outside perspective and they wanted to put, I guess, stand up first, because in Estonia it's a small country, and probably you can't help but there's going to be some kind of nepotism or whatnot, because all the other people who were doing stand-up were like famous actors. So it was like, oh, you're already famous, the stand-up is popular, let's make you do that. And then of course they're not really into it with their whole heart, so the quality isn't that good. But we were like, hey, fuck it, we're gonna do our own shows so that we can ensure that the shows are as good as they can. And since we're pretty much outsiders anyway, so it doesn't matter, oh, I knew this guy or I went to school with that guy. You don't get anything through connections. You just have to show up and do good at the mics, get laughs, and that's how you progress. So I think the system is built on like quality.
I mean, Roger's dad owns Euronics or whatever, right? And we still can't get a proper mic for Ardo through him. So I mean, there's nothing you can get, no matter who your even parents are in our system, right?
If Roger wasn't like killing, like, he's lucky that he is rich, as he is talented and a lovely human being.
I think what's so nice about the scene in general too is the fact that at least when you start doing it, like 1 month, 2 months in, you start understanding more about, because like the way I see it is like the first month you do stand up, the first set you ever do, you already have those jokes written for the last 5 years, because it's the same 10 jokes that you've been doing with your friends, and you've essentially perfected them without realizing it. But then when you're forced to step out of your comfort zone and write new jokes, you get a better appreciation for the craft and stuff. And Because if you want to get to the Kevin Hart level, or you want to get to the Rugger or the Ardo or the Karl level of ability or specific style of joke, everyone is been in your shoes. Like, everyone has been where you are. No one is Eddie Murphy. No one is Dave Chappelle. And those are outliers to the statistical bell curve. And so bringing it back to the community it just builds off the community, and you really centerize it around the idea that we're all been there, and we're really looking out for each other. We got our best in minds, because if we all do good, we all get more money, and we all get to do more stand up. So,
Yeah. I'm seeing Ardo's image frozen as well right now.
Absolutely.
So.
Like, there's you just gotta go through. I don't feel frozen, I must say.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
It actually says
it broke.
It says my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, perfect. Mine's fine. Again, I can tell you, mine's perfect. So everything's fine. But yeah, sorry, Ardo, you were saying stuff before technical difficulties.
I don't even remember.
Well, yeah. I kind of see, what you mean, that because we've progressed recently, right? And we haven't achieved worldwide fame because also we're doing it in Estonia, a lot of us, right? So I also do feel that, seeing how we did at the Fringe and stuff and so on, that Estonia is a good incubator for stand-up comedy in a way, because we're sort of doing our stuff here, and once we do actually get out to a larger market, then I think our comedians will do well. I
mean, when you say incubator,
I think we've built a good place to learn stand-up, like, because we have now 10 or so mics, good audiences. So, like, now for the up-and-coming guys, like, they had such a great environment, like, to grow.
Yeah, the idea of an incubator, it's ridiculous how nice it is, because in theory, again, this is like an outlier to the rest of the bell curve. In theory, this place should not exist for stand-up, but it does, because at no point anywhere else in the world can you be your first mic in front of 220 people in Tartu. And that's ridiculous. And you can come back next month and you bomb the first time, you kill it, or vice versa second month. And you just, like, you learn to handle large crowds, learn how to handle small crowds. And it's an amazing environment to learn. And because of the way the group structure is and how collective we are under the umbrella of Comedy Estonia, we also have the great opportunity that if you're starting out next week, within a couple months of trying out, and you have the balls to ask somebody for advice, you'd be like, hey, I love your stuff. I've seen you live in front of at like Subroskino or something. And you're like, 300 people? How'd you do it? I want to know your secrets. I just need to learn from you. And you can honestly do that.
I do feel though that one of the reasons, for example, why we added a weekly Ykskõik, which is a small cellar in Tallinn, right, is because of the small room and the smaller crowd, right? Because if you're starting off stand-up as well, the smaller crowd is actually better, because if you fail and bomb in front of 200 or 300 people, likelihood is you're not going to try again. But if you bomb in front of 20 or 30 people, you're probably going to try again, right? And also, there are different skills. For example, what we noticed as well at the Fringe was that, because we're used to doing the big rooms, the theaters, and so on, and even open mics are, right, a couple of hundred people, now put into a room with like 8 people at some of the shows that you do a guest spot or something at, it's suddenly very difficult, because you're not used to this. And essentially, you had to relearn the whole thing of doing stand-up to 8 people, because it's a more intimate version of the whole thing. And you can't just sort of go and look into the same tricks, and you're used to, you look at certain points in the room and stuff, but no, you can see everybody's whites to the eyes, the whites of their eyes, right? And it's a different experience.
It's a different skill set, but like I do believe we're a bit pampered maybe here, because it's like hearing stories about the scenes in like UK or America, like it's kind of mind-boggling actually that there are comedians who've been at it for like years, but they still, you know, they haven't had the experience of performing to, let's say, over 50 people. So they've done this for years, but when they have like a big hall, they get really nervous. Because like we, you know, as you said, we can do an open mic with 200 people. So we've already been through that. We're not going to shit our pants if we get the opportunity, like after 5 years, to do like a set in front of 45 people.
Oh yeah, no, it's fucking fantastic. I mean, over the course of the last 8 months, I think I've tried to step into more of not into a role, but like I've tested out my hosting skills more. And at no point should I ever be hosting Comteli and Tortu. At no point, but you know, I've done it, you know, and because it's like, they're like, yeah, you know, Caleb, let's just see how this goes. They throw you a bone and you're like, this is going to suck for 2 hours, but you know, at least I can handle it and stuff. And, you know, you really get a level of confidence where, like if I have the ability to, for the summer, I'm planning to go back to the States for, you know, about 6 weeks. And I've done the research in an upstate New York, I can pretty much do one mic every night. So I'm assuming I can get at least a spot every other night. Maybe if I'm start popping up a little bit, I can guarantee a spot anyways if I'm good. So, that's like 3 months worth of work here in America. I'm just gonna try it, but also be able to take all those skills I've already developed for those large rooms that maybe I can get a guest spot or a feature or something. I can try to weasel my way and be like, you know what, I'm recognized in Estonia if you know the country, if you know it exists, you know. So
do you feel that doing stand-up,
just show them pictures of you doing like 300 seaters?
Yeah.
Do you feel that because you came here to study and so on, and I guess you, as a foreigner in different countries, it's always difficult to sort of find new friends and stuff. Do you feel that doing stand-up has sort of helped to ease your time here in Estonia? Like,
yeah. I mean, my first year here was exceptionally rough because, well, you take an 18-year-old boy from America who kind of grew up in a fairly strict household, and then you put him in Eastern Europe being like, listen, you can do anything you want. You can imagine how that goes.
Pretty much, yeah. Like health and safety, we don't do that here. Alcohol, how much do you want? Kill yourself with it if you wish, right?
It's not even really. It's not even a question of how much. It's just how far do you want to go this. So like, yeah, my first year was like partying and doing all the fun stuff that 19-year-old does. And then I realized when I got back in the summer, drinking way too much. I quit drinking for 6 weeks, and I came back. And I was just bored all the time. Like I was about to fall back into my old ways. And then, cause all my friends were Russians. So like if I'm around Russians all the time and all we do is smoke and drink shisha, all the time we do is we drink and smoke shisha.
Yeah, that's very different. Like, yeah, you just drink the water out of that. That can't be healthy. Like that's,
it's a different kind of buzz, man.
Yeah.
But you know, even when I started, it was still rough for like 6 months. And I think I've kind of picked up on the vibe too. There's kind of like there's a waiting period, I feel like, with the core guys before, like, you're gonna get a fist bump from Mikkel and Sander and you guys as well. Like, you're gonna get a fist bump, but like the odds of having an in-depth conversation between like friends, it's kind of tough. Just because you're like, are you going to be here for the next 2 years really honing the craft, or are you just trying it out for one time? And because you're still got to work on your set, so it's about using your time wisely. So it's like, you know, it's kind of difficult. So that first like 6-7 months of doing stand-up was very rough because I would see open micers come and go, and I was the only guy I felt that was like in it for the long haul. And then being the only American who doesn't speak Estonian in a room of minimum 40 Estonians, again, it was really rough. And then I started talking. Then I eventually got open up to like Rauno in Roger. And once that happened, like once that fucking clicked, I was like, okay, now I found my place. Like these are my people. And then we went to Fringe a couple months later. And then even when we were in Fringe, I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like I just met you through another comedian, but like we're still good, bro. We're bros. We're broing it out, and let's go have a beer. Let's go do some shows, and then let's go get drunk. And, like that whole mindset. Even okay, excuse the drinking, but you can still always bond between comedians. It's something we share in common. It's a very, very weird bond.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain.
I don't know if other professions have it. Like if you find out, oh, you're a plumber too. Oh, that's cool. Let's hang out or not. But if you find out someone's a comedian, like there's an instant sort of kinship there.
Yeah, like I think to a degree, I could be closer to comedians than I can be to some of my family, just because like. I forget who said it, but like the better your comedy is, it implies that the truer you are to yourself. So the closer you are to your true self on stage is the better your jokes are going to be and the better your stand-up is.
Yeah.
And so when you are every day sitting in the same room watching the same guy perform the same jokes and just open himself up to so much rejection and avoid it, that you get a weird bond, and then all those jokes you start piecing them together, and then all the talk we have off stage that the audience isn't privy to hear. So you have the info of like, oh, I know this comedian, but then I know them.
You really get to see inside the soul of a person when you sort of see them do the stand up and sort of talk to them about it later on as well. And hear the stories. I do agree with that. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I will go and sort of peek into the chat as well, because there's a couple of things I wanted to address going on in there. But we've just had a lovely chat until there. Still is a lovely chat, but I feel like I should. So first off, someone said, "Oh shit, you got Eminem on your show."
Yeah, the flight from Detroit wasn't too half bad. You're flying out of the right side of 8 Mile. It's pretty cheap. No one wants to fly out of that side anyways.
Then someone asked, Carl, please don't talk about your nipples today. There was a lot of explanation they had to do. Yesterday I did describe mine in detail, and it was a spur of the moment thing. It needed to be done. It
was asked of you, so I mean you didn't bring it up yourself, and you haven't even been close to bringing it up today. So I don't know why that question was necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have talked about my nipples unless you actually mentioned them. At least no one has paid me for the nipple stuff today. Sorry.
So now that you're talking about them, like,
I hope the mother came in at the same time again. Like, oh, it's the nipple guy.
Just every episode with this guy.
Nipple talk with Carl.
Then what would I have here? I had someone ask who is this? I don't know who this is. This is Caleb Brunick, who is a person of stand-up in Estonia, who does English stand-up. And then someone said that it's in Estonia it's more difficult somehow because we have dark humor, but a lot of people want more humor like Niinemet does, right? Sort of happy-go-lucky stuff. And I feel there's a market for both stuff. That's the thing about comedians as well, that there are very successful niche comedians that do niche things, and this is as the sort of scene and the stand-up in general gets more developed and goes more mainstream, I think these niche comedians get to prosper more as well and can sort of reach their proper audiences. I mean, Margus Toots, for example, who we have talked about in previous things as well, does a very specific type of act, right? He's a very specific act, quite niche, I would say, and it is a thing that as the stand-up scene and gets more mainstream, more recognized, there are going to be more people who find that out and who enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and if you're especially talking about Niinemet, then I think, like, if you take the most famous guys in comedy Estonia, like Sander or Ari, like, I think there are a whole lot of people probably probably the majority of them who see Niinemets won't see Sander or Ari or even know about them, and vice versa probably.
Yeah.
So I think you can have a massive massive following for either type, whether the stand up we do or the stand up kind of like thing that they do.
Yeah. I mean, when I've told people I'm a comedian and stuff, they're like, "Oh, you are? Where do you perform?" I was like, "With Comedy Estonia," and they're like, they kind of know it, and I have to use like Ari, Sander, Ardo, Karl. I list the entire core guys. I'm like, "You know any of these people?" And they're like, "No, I don't." And I think it just goes to show you, it depends on how invested you are to that community.
Yeah.
If it's a comedy community, or it's like everybody, or it's like you're really honed into Comedy Estonia and these specific mics and these specific people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like most people have no idea.
Yeah, and
if you give me a Carl's name to an average Estonian, what?
Yeah, and I would say also that like when we're doing like the autumn tours and stuff like that, especially even and Sander's tours as well. I remember like even a couple of years ago, we went to a town, and when I was still hosting, one of the things I would always do, because that was something we needed to do at that time, was ask, so how many of you have ever seen stand-up before? Give us a cheer, right? And from the theatre, maybe 10%. And everybody else is new. They've never seen stand-up before. And this is, to this day, I still sometimes do this just to see what's going on. And I still get the same results, right? And at that point, you realize, oh, I'm introducing a new art form, like, and you can see how people react as well, like how they're enjoying it. Sometimes they'll laugh at a joke, and then they'll discuss the joke with each other and so on, and you realize, oh, this is new to them. They don't know how to really do this, and this is fine, and this is a learning curve. And I still think it's going to be like this for years, because this is a new medium still, and it's not. People haven't grown up with it. Once there's a new generation of people that have grown up with stand-up in the world, and especially now YouTube and so on, where you can actually find it, it's gonna get more ingrained into the society, but currently it's still a new thing for a lot of people.
I mean, there's a whole group of people that we're probably never gonna really get. We might convert some, but like the older generation and people who just, I guess, rely more on TV, so they're just always gonna be, rather they're going to go watch Peeter Oja or Tõnis Niinemets, because, they're pretty much on every week at Sunday on prime time. Yeah. So, and they're not really going to go on YouTube and find us. But yeah, as the younger generations come on, we're going to, like, I guess, grow.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole younger generation stuff is really, I think, that about, like, if you break it down into a show idea, it's really the divide of who can afford a ticket and who doesn't. Because I remember for the guy who said, I've never seen this guy, I have a clip on Comedy Estonia YouTube. You can check it out. It's like 5.5 minutes long. Great clip. But it was filmed in Baltic. And normally I do like a bomb every so often, as everyone does. But generally I do fairly decent. If not, maybe I'll kill it. Because the crowd's young and I can connect to them very well. We did Värske Veri there, and the usual crowd I was expecting in Copley was not there at all, like maybe 10%. Everyone else was 30 plus. And so all my jokes that are, either they're referenced to a certain age demographic or a very specific part of Estonia, they didn't get it. And so, you had to like, it was 6.5, so they already knew the concept of the show. They understood what was going on, but then just being in English is a mind fuck to a lot of people, and they have to take that minute to just like reprocess and just go with it. But then you're like, you don't get what my people have done for years, and then these people have been doing for years. So it's just that weird clash that I don't think a majority of people will get to until the corona kills off a lot of the boomers and the zoomers can take over. So
How do you feel generally about performing in English in Estonia? Like, do you can sort of feel the sort of switch in the brains, like a like a transmission thing in a car when you just get crank?
So because I grew up going to international schools instead of like public American schools. So majority of my friends were either European, Middle East, or Middle Eastern, Far East Asian, or they were African. And so, you know, growing up with people who their primary their primary language was not English. You know, it's not a big hindrance to have a conversation and have like childhood memories with, but you do pick up on certain ways to say something. You know, you lose some of your nuance that you would have within your subculture of your own language. So like my accent from America, I don't have a lot of nuanced words. Like maybe I'll say wash instead of wash, or maybe I'll add certain letters in. It's really hard to explain because we don't have a dialect there. But growing up in that environment, I think ultimately shaped me in the way to like be successful here, because I don't really, the first couple times I had the fear because it was like, oh, I'm doing stand-up for the first time. But generally, I don't have a fear of performing in front of Estonians. I rather quite like it because I assume that you're going to understand me, but also you may not. So I can kind of manipulate the language a little bit to where, hey, maybe if I say something, it's going to take you a minute to get there.
Yeah. And also, I feel like the general level of English in Estonia is quite good as well. So that's not as much of a problem, because I know in other countries that I've performed in English, there is like, if it's not a specific English show, but at an open mic you go up and do it in English, then there's a lot of people who still can't understand. Like, and surprising countries you wouldn't expect, like Denmark or something like that, right?
Yeah. I'm not. And I haven't performed this, so I can't really say. But I think that the people in Estonia are more welcoming of very darker humor, and you can say a lot more and get away with it. And because of that, once you realize that as a foreigner, it's very welcoming, and it makes you want to perform in that situation again, because then you don't have this fear of, oh, am I going to get canceled? Is this politically incorrect? Because I'm be honest, I have said some stuff that's not overtly racist or overtly offensive, but if you take them out of context, as a lot of people take comedians out of context, and you know they get canceled. It's like I remember I was doing crowd work with some Indian guy and was talking about Volt and shit. Yeah. The guy loved it, but there were people who didn't love it, and it's just
I do know that often when comedians are on stage and something gets said, then the sort of thing that goes is said around the backstage, only in Estonia. You know that this is fine here. Like, people will laugh, nobody will mention, but we're all like, yeah, remember not to do that anywhere else.
Do you think when you go to the States in the summer, do you think you're gonna have to like be a bit more on edge about this, or like, you know?
Yeah, I because I'm at the point right now where, like, when I write out jokes, I write them out long format, and then I cut them down, and I have bullet points, and I just get down to keywords, so I know it in my head. I cannot do the same structure of writing jokes here in America initially, because I'm so nervous something's gonna be said. And the thing is that I think Americans on average are a bit too sensitive. And so if I say something, I'm afraid they won't quite get it. So I have to like I don't want to do political humor, but I think political humor would be easier to start off with than going into like my race stuff.
That's the problem as well, is going to be because you are American, right? So they will grade you and evaluate you and criticize you as an American, right? If example, let's say I go there, I could say, oh, I'm sorry, like, I'm an Estonian. I didn't know this culturally sensitive point, right? If it's if it's not an obvious thing, like saying the N-word or something like that, right? That's obviously you should know that before. But if it's some sort of strange political thing or something that is very deeply sort of local in its sensitivity, right? Then I could say that sorry, and then make it as learning.
But they'll just be listening to you, and they'll be like, "Man, this British guy is racist as fuck. What the fuck is wrong with those goddamn
Irish bastards?" Yeah. So, and I think people would sort of forgive me, for example, a bit more.
I remember at the Fringe we did this one. I think it was Ro Campbell's mystery show we had gotten guest spot at, and I was doing my set, and there was the one black guy in the front row, and of course I turned it. And this was like something, because I think I have to switch my brain. It's like remembering people will not get my references because I'm not Estonian, but my like a lot of my fundamental young adult years have been in this country.
Yeah. It was sort of strange that you used all those Estonian words in your fringe sets. Yeah, constantly telling me. I didn't find it odd, but I was just messing with.
Well, yeah, but even at that point, it like Nuggle? It's just there's some things in my head where there's a fundamental time that they're now ingrained in, and I see the world a very specific way now. And I could change it, but I just choose not to. I like it. But you're doing your thing, and you're like, hey man, we got to be careful. Echo's going to kick us out because we're both immigrants. Because I assume that the black guy in the audience is also not Estonian. But I forgot we're in Scotland. So yeah. I mean, at least that joke cracked out all the rest of the core guys in the background.
Yeah, because we were like, that's just the moment. What are you doing? Yeah. Sort of like the absurdity of the situation.
The black guy was like, "Oh, I guess I'm stupid. I didn't get that."
Everybody else is laughing. Okay. Let's see. I had one more thing I wanted to ask you. Probably. No. Well, I was going to ask, where would you rather be in the current situation, Estonia or America? But
definitely Estonia.
Yeah, I need the answer for that anyway.
I mean, I think that the situation is not being handled properly. I think we're not doing enough. I think there's people in power who are dealing out false information and false promises. Yeah. And we need to be blatantly honest with ourselves about what this is. And even though it's not, the Spanish flu level of deadly, it's highly infectious, and which can result to high deaths. So let's flatten the curve and let's be safe. And it really sucks that I can't do a show, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I was in the States too. And if I'm in the States, like me wanting to go back to the States for the summer is a great idea. But the same token is, even if Estonia is safe and we're back up to, because that my thing is, I think by June we'll be performing again. I think by June we'll be performing again. I'm being optimistic.
I wouldn't say maybe. Depends. Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, my thing is that I was reading today that they're planning to open. They want to open malls by mid-May. And my thing is, if you want to open Solaris or Virukeskus, and those easily have at any given time 2,000 to 2,000 people in them, working, shopping, walking, bus stop. If you want to open those, it doesn't make sense for you not to open the cinemas and the shows, because what exactly are you solving? Are people just going to walk by and they're more infectious, or you have 40 people who aren't infected who are sitting in a room? It just doesn't make sense. So it's kind of how you mix up. So it's it's the same rule I have with curse words and derogatory terms. It's either they're all okay or none of them are okay. So
yeah, well, I'm more on the side of, I don't think anybody really knows what they're doing right now, and most of it is just speculation right now. And even if they ease stuff up and something like the rates go up again, they'll probably might close it down again, or it's just so many unknowns now. Like, we still have, like, I'm planning the summer tour. I have some dates already scheduled, but for others, I'm waiting for any sort of sign from the government, anything like what's gonna happen to continue, right? So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I remember. I was talking to, I think, Helle, and she was talking about how the dates for Sander's tour and Sugi's tour, they're being pushed around. Like Sander's, I think, is
we don't exactly know what the dates yet. So
they're just like they're later
they're being
on.
Pushed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I was like, I had this weird feeling. I was like, oh, that's great, because if I go back to the States, I can like really practice hard in English comedy, and I can come back and maybe I get on Sugi's tour and stuff. And then I was saying, is like, yeah, but if they get pushed back, that means that America's not in any better shape. And I'm not really in the country, so you know, I was getting my hopes up, and then I shot myself down because I'm sad inside.
But yeah, everything's just being pushed forward right now. Like I was planning a tour as well, but that might get pushed to next year because there's everything just get like I'm starting to feel like this is the year that didn't happen kind of thing. Like it's just paused for a year and then we'll move on again. We'll see how it actually plays out.
Well, it might work if we get a very like competent system of fast and very widespread testing and isolating the cases and their contacts and whatever, like they do in South Korea and Taiwan. Now I don't know how competent we are in Estonia to implement this system, but I think it can be done. Sort of, it's shown that it can be done, but it demands a lot of, I guess, resources and planning that we haven't really seen happen here or in most of the world. So, I mean, at least there's hope that this might work out.
I mean, the like Estonia is in no way remotely as bad of a situation that Italy was in or Wuhan.
Yeah.
And so I would say that our best bet is people are talking we're maybe in the next like the state of emergency will end on May 1st, and so they will have to either extend it, or they don't renew it, and if they don't renew it, I guess everything goes back to normal. But like they're going to extend it, they're just not going to say it yet until it's later on because Latvia just I think like 2 weeks ago they extended their stuff and they have a different situation. But it's like we could end this in 3 weeks if we just took the approach of you're locked down like Korea does. We become authoritarian and lock everything down for 3 weeks, and then we're fine. But people don't take that. And I mean, I was driving through Tartu yesterday, and we had good weather, and the amount of people who are rollerblading is ridiculous, but like, come on, like the sun's nice, but you're negating the problem. You are part of the problem essentially. And so that's, I think, the final thing is we're going to have to hit that point where we're going to run out of PPE. We're going to run out of ventilators. We're going to run out of resources, and it's going to be too late, too late. And so then we become authoritarians. And
absolutely. Yeah. Cause like if we right now removed all the restrictions and like the virus starts spreading like crazy, then what we have done up to this point will have been pointless because we'll just waste like all of this that we did last month, right? And I also think that people a lot of people don't have like the foresight or analytical mind, so they just see like, oh well, we've only had like 40 deaths, so how many people die in a car crash like every day? But like they don't understand that a car crash isn't contagious, and we only have the amount of deaths because of the measures that we have taken. If everything was free, then the number
then you
would
will see
like
what happens in other
higher.
countries, right, as well, where you have record death rates every day, like as well.
I mean, even to that point, that I also know that on foresight, I don't think a lot of people realize, at least from Dr. Fauci from the United States, is saying this sucks right now and it's gonna go away by summer, but come fall, it's gonna happen again. It may not hit everywhere as bad. We may be better prepared.
Yeah.
But having more outbreaks and lockdowns are going to happen in fall, because with as contagious and as infectious it is, it will happen, it will spread, and there will be stupid people. And sorry, like, just if we end it now, we get it over with. But if you just keep waiting it out because you want to go on a walk, I mean, who are you helping?
Yeah.
So,
but also from a stand-up point of view, when finally we do get to do tours and so on, right, the one thing that we also have to sort of keep in mind is that we're going to be rusty, right, because we haven't been able to perform for months and so on, right? So there'll be a time for people to remember their material, a lot of open mics in a short time. to try out new material and basically just get back on the wagon, so to speak. And this is going to be a process in time as well. Like I don't envy Sander of not getting to do stand up from March, right? March, April, however many months it's gonna continue, and then having to do a solo tour. Like Sander will pull it off, no doubt about it, but it's still going to be a lot of sort of difficult for him, and it's going to be difficult for him because he'll probably want to hit as many open mics as well, just to get back on the sort of flows and the timings and everything else, which is kind of like riding a bike, that you're not going to forget it, but you're still going to get rusty in it a little bit. You have to remind yourself, oh, this is how this goes, and get back into it. It is a little bit of muscle memory at this point, but you still have to, like, the muscle's going to atrophy at some point.
Yeah, I think as comedians, we would all like to get back as soon as possible, but unfortunately, like as a comedian, I want to do it, but like as just a regular person looking at the situation, like probably we're gonna have to wait it out and like suffer. But then again, like I think in Estonia it's not that bad as in in China. We don't weld people shut in houses, so a lot of the whining that's going on seems to be like a bit of look around what's going on in the rest of the world. Ain't that bad.
And sorry, go on. Okay, you're
going to say that the one thing I am looking forward to because of the virus. Oh, is it back up? Is it back?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. The one thing that I'm excited to see though is, at least within the open micer sphere, is how many open micers kind of drop out. Because when I started, I think I was at the tail end of like how there's ebb and flow of new open micers and there's no one coming. I think I was at the tail end, like the middle of no one coming in, and then right like 6 months in, it just picked up out of nowhere. We were having new guys at least like 2 new guys a month, and then the group exponentially grew up. And I think now this is a good time when mics aren't as prevalent, and if you really want to get back into comedy, those first couple months you want to do an open mic, it's going to be very competitive just to get spots, because everyone's got to get right. It's not going to be like, if I don't get Oakspike this time, I'll get it next week, or I'll get Colm Tilly on Monday, or whatever the system the guys make up to devise equal spots. Those spots are going to end up going to the guys who need it the most, because their occupation relies on it. But also from the open mic perspective, it'd be nice to see how many people actually want to be a comedian, and how many people actually want to do this because they love the craft, not because they like the attention or whatever else their other motive be. And I think that's going to be a really nice thing to kind of thin the herd and really keep who's in it for the right reasons in it, and just keep people it fresh, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like thin the herd sounds a bit cruel, but I do see what you mean. It gives more opportunity to the ones who want to chase it, for whom it is a passion, right? And who I just want to do more stand up, and it gives them more opportunity, and that's all good. Right?
Yeah, sometimes you see people who do a couple of open mics or even a few months, and they actually, you really see the progress, and they're, getting reactions, getting laughs, and they're quite good, and then they just disappear, It's always like puzzling when you see that. It's like, really, you're kind of almost killing, Did that feel good?
Yeah. I mean, to this. Oh, I was gonna say one more thing. On the same point as the downside of the virus is, there's a couple guys who I won't say their names or anything, but like there's a couple guys who I really think are very talented comics. They're open micers still. They've been in maybe 6 months or less, right? And because of this now, they may have not had the same drive to continue doing comedy. And that's also a downside to the same situation, where it's a great side. Well, people who are not as passionate about it aren't going to return. But then we run the risk as well of these people who are uncertain about their abilities, who might be a little bit shy or whatever to accepting, what they're really good at and owning it. We might lose them, and we might lose a great comic. So it's a double-edged sword, really.
But in a way, it's like a couple of months or however this long is going to be, which is my new catchphrase, is basically people will have time to think as well, right? When you actually do get the new, okay, sign-ups are up now, this is when the next mic happens, and then at that point everybody will know inside, like, yeah, okay, finally I get to do this, or, oh, I'm not, do I want, like, at that point, if you get doubt, then probably you should analyze that doubt, right?
Yeah.
But I look in the chat as well. Guys is asking for the summer tour, do we have any cool concepts, or will we be including some Värske Veri guys? This is what happens every summer tour.
We don't know.
We don't know yet. One thing is, and we do often have newer comedians at some shows as well, doing spots here and there. Usually it is mostly the people, because we're traveling and sleeping together a lot, sharing beds and stuff. So it is ourselves as well a little bit. So we'll see how that goes, but we don't know for sure yet who's going to be on the tour.
I think I can say it. Lewis was talking about Sugi Story and stuff in summer tour as well, and I think for certain shows that are easy, so the rest of you guys, the core guys, travel together. But for some of the guys who just come for maybe a specific show, depending on location-wise, I think there's certain towns like Tallinn, Tartu-Pärnu, Rakvere, those are going to be the ones where we can pick you up on the way and stuff.
Exactly, and the summer tour as well, that's where we usually, if the comedians can do transport, because one of the main core concepts for us is that we all have our own little bus that we're traveling in, and then if there is a comedian who lives or has a summer home in one of the towns, then obviously, hey, come to the show, like, this is a show happening. So that's something that happens, Someone also said that I see that you're running out of people to invite. We're not, actually. This is, we're going through all the people who were on the Värske Veri tour as well. I think the only person who hasn't been on yet is Tauri Küla, which I will try to remedy in the near future. But yeah, that's about it. I do have a game as well I've prepared, and I'm looking at the time. We should probably do the game.
Okay.
So
play the game.
So the game is called America, and
you forgot the fuck yeah.
Yeehaw! It's America time, everybody. So for the first thing, I'm gonna. This is my offensive American accent.
It's like a southern 45-year-old woman who's very frail and afraid.
Hello there, little darlings. How are you feeling today? You want some candy, little? I don't know.
I know that's the pervert guy from Family Guy.
Yeah. Hello, little kids. How are you doing today?
Herbert the pervert.
Herbert's my name.
I just realized his name's Herbert and it rhymes with pervert.
Revelations. But yeah, I have...
when you thought that show couldn't be any more awesome.
Oh my god. It's the best.
But I have because America famously has some crazy laws, right? Like the ones that have been somehow in the books from the Civil War, right? Yeah, you have these very specific old laws every state has that aren't really enforced that much, but still exist, right? So I'm gonna read out some of these laws, and you have to guess which state they are from. That's basically the
okay.
So whoever guesses correctly, I'm guessing 0 points for both of you. So we'll see. So first off, any person may possess any number of live frogs to use in frog jumping contests, but if such a frog dies or is killed, it must be destroyed as soon as possible and may not be eaten or otherwise used for any purpose. So you may have frogs for frog jumping competitions, but if it dies, you cannot eat or use it. It must be destroyed. Which state?
I'm gonna make I'm gonna go with an educated
thinking about where the frogs are at.
Yeah, I'm going with Louisiana. That sounds like something out of Louisiana.
Well, I have our frogs here.
Yeah, it's actually
Ardo,
kind of what I was thinking, but I'm not going to repeat it, but I think it sounds crazy, and I know a crazy state is Florida, so that's my answer.
It's actually the correct answer is California. Yeah, this was a curveball.
Was that one of those laws that Arnold Schwarzenegger passed when he was governor?
Yeah, that was the first thing he passed, by the way.
You cannot have the frogs or you cannot eat it later. They jump, but you not eat.
You cannot squeeze it into your eyeballs. You must not squeeze the frogs.
The slime from the frog is good for building muscle. It contains a lot of protein.
Oh, that's why he wanted him destroyed. He wanted so much protein, only he could harness that power. No one else could have it. Oh, wow.
Go to the frog dumps and just, okay. You can't have a cocktail that mixes spirits with beer. So a cocktail that has both heavy spirits like vodka or rum or whiskey or anything like that.
So you can't have a Jägerbomb?
No. I know, with beer, basically. Jägerbomb is energy drink, though, isn't it?
No, it's Red Bull and Jägermeister.
Yeah, that's allowed.
Oh. Then isn't it an Irish car bomb?
Yes, that's the one you're looking for, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how Tim finds that. Is that too offensive for him?
No, I'll talk to him.
Or is he proud?
Oh, I mean, it'd be very weird. So you can't mix
heavy spirits with beer.
Okay, this sounds like a temperance move. I'm thinking 1920s. I'm going to.
Which state still lives in the 1920s? This is that you have to figure out.
Oh, it's Mississippi. It's Mississippi.
Okay. And Ardo, what would you think? Ardo's trying to remember states right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
I don't know all the counties in Estonia. I'm supposed to know 50 states of another country.
I mean,
but I'm gonna.
I would say it would be okay with me if you just had a map of the states that you could pick one from. Like I would be fine with that.
Nah, it's okay. It's okay, man. I'm gonna say Utah.
Utah.
Oh, actually, that was a good one. That was really clever.
The correct answer is Nebraska. Yeah, Utah has a law that during an emergency, you're not allowed to sell alcohol. That's one of the laws. So currently, Utah's out of luck. But
I didn't even know they sold alcohol in Utah.
You could probably buy it at some point.
Crazy Mormons.
Yeah, if like, you can fuck your 10 wives. Then why do you have to drink?
Next one is you can't hold a contest where the point is to chase and catch a pig, greased, oiled, or otherwise. So you cannot chase and catch a pig in a contest, no matter if you or the pig is greased, oiled, or just nude or amorous.
Who the fuck comes up with these?
I mean,
they're just.
There has to have been a situation, right? It's kind of like on the coffee lid, contents may be hot. That's famously because of a court case. Yeah. Someone said. This law is probably as well. There was a precedent of someone I got pig AIDS because I was chasing the pig and I was oiled and naked and I slipped into the pig and suddenly
we banned the pig runs from the county fair.
That's pretty much
last outbreak. I think that's just pure Kentucky.
Okay, that's good.
George Clooney was from Kentucky, I know that too.
They have a very nice state motto, which is unbridled spirits, because that's where the bourbon and the horses come from.
Did you know that the town that Jack Daniels is distilled in, they cannot sell liquor? It's a dry town.
Okay. You said Jack Daniels is distilled in, and somehow I had a picture of Jack Nicholson in my head. I'm thinking, what the fuck did they do with Jack Nicholson in there? Like, what's going on there? And then I realized, no, that's the wrong type of Jack.
My guess, West Virginia. That sounds like some hoedowning.
Actually, chat got it correct. Actually, this is Minnesota. Minnesota. Yes,
Minnesota. Oh, you mean you're from Minnesota?
Yeah, I've watched all seasons of Fargo. I haven't seen any like greased pigs in there, so makes sense.
Yeah,
there's a Family Guy episode where there's a cutaway about making fun of people who with the Midwestern accent.
Yeah,
it's like this girl's like, "Oh my God, did you see what Ali Ackerman? Did you see Ali Ackerman sent a Snapchat of her ass crack to Zach? It's I can't do it justice. It's a great joke. It's a great bit. Seth MacFarlane is a genius.
Okay,
that's enough of what I'm saying.
You're not allowed to make glue out of dead skunks. Very specifically dead skunks. Apparently making it out of a live skunk is fine.
I mean, I knew that you could make horses into glue, but I was not aware that you could make...
You can make anything into glue. Humans included.
It's a very odd fact, but...
soap as well.
Yeah, but soap's just like rendered down fat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glue, kind of.
So skunk, glue. So this skunk has to be in that region of the States. So...
Yeah, and dead skunk. So basically, because you have roadkill cafes in a lot of places where if you run over a skunk or something, they have the mottos of from your grill to ours and so on, right?
You're giving me insight. I'm thinking. I think I'm guessing way too East Coast-ish. Let's go a little west. Final answer. Indiana.
Indiana. Okay.
It's like an Indiana kind of thing.
That actually sounds to me as well. Steven says you're cute, by the way, Caleb.
Oh, thank you, Steven. I miss you.
Ardo, what do you think? Which state would dead skunk glue be banned?
Vermont.
The correct answer is Oklahoma.
Yeah. Fuck that Tiger King blast bullshit. Oh my God. Did you see Donald Trump's Jr.'s, like, he's talking about Tiger King on Fox News, and he's like, I did not know you could buy a tiger for $2,000. Like, I would have bought a tiger. And you keep seeing it in his head. He's like talking about how cheap tigers are. Like, and you see it, he's like, this man's gonna buy a tiger.
Apparently in New York state, there's a law that you can't take selfies with tigers or any kind of other large cat. The main reason it was two reasons. First is your protection, and the second one is the protection of the animals, because they would probably be sedated in some way, like drugged or something for the selfies.
Yeah.
And to stop
I mean, oh, you mean like an in-person selfie? But I mean, like, if I'm in a tiger exhibit and he's behind the glass, I'm gonna pop that selfie and be like, I gotta get that Tiger King hitter, you know, with that Carol Baskin filter on my face that says I killed my husband.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like disgusting to see, like, on that show where that guy Jeff Lowe was putting like tiger cubs in his suitcase and then hauling them to Las Vegas, so like some bitches could like pose with them on Instagram, and then they would fuck him in return.
Yeah,
that's a crazy show, man.
Can't do that in New York, at least legally. Legally.
I love how that show happens, and Rob Lowe also still has like warrants out in Las Vegas. Like, how do you make?
I think you kind of I don't think the actor is the one that has the warrants.
Oh, not Rob Lowe.
I was like, what the fuck's he gotten into?
Yeah, that would be interesting if you played someone, right? And then you also get the same convictions. You're so in character.
Yeah, but like, I get what you're saying. I mean, I mean, that guy's a trash person, and like most of them, like there are a few, like the legless guy and the people who take care of animals, but the rest are just like trash, garbage people.
Yeah, I mean, Carol. I was listening to a podcast and about Carol Baskin. It was Fragrant 2, Akash Singh and Andrew Schultz.
Yeah.
And Akash Singh made the point is, even no matter if Carol Baskin ever gets caught for killing her husband, the damage has already been done, and her punishment is worse of her being in public than ever being in jail. Because if she killed and got caught, Big Cat Rescue would still live on, but she forever is now known as the woman who killed her husband and got away with it by in a meat grinder and feeding the tigers and stuff.
Yeah, that would be great if like the guy was like alive in Costa Rica or whatever, like watching this on Netflix.
Oh my god! Now, can you imagine that? You could drop the #1 New York bestseller in 2 days if you just came out being like, "She didn't kill me, guys. She hired an actor to do it for her."
Yeah.
So yeah,
I have the last question for you as well.
The last one.
Let's
hit it.
You are not allowed to throw your poop out of a moving car or leave a container of pee on the side of the highway. So no poop out of a car window and no pee containers on the side of the road.
Okay, I get the shit out of... Like, I get the whole you can't throw the poop out of the window. Like, that makes sense to me.
That would make... I would say that should be every state, not just one. Like, that seems like a reasonable law to me.
That should be a federal law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that would be an overstep by the government. And you would have people protesting.
Yeah, protest.
Here's what I'm hung up on this. Oh my god, you would just drive by the street, everyone is in traffic, just dropping shit out of their windows.
If you are having a poo straight out of your car window with your ass out, is that throwing the poop out of the car window or not? There would be court cases and lawyers having to argue that. I'm pretty sure. Like, now you would see that technically the ass was not in the car at the moment when the poop was coming out of the rectum.
As long as the lower intestine and the ass are out the car, to start with, it's not technically in the car at all. But I'm more hung up on the piss part, because to do that, that means that you have to have been so skilled at unscrewing a bottle and doing what you got to do in the bottle and then capping it off, that instead of just stepping over and just peeing outside, you then stopped, opened your car door, left the pee, and then drove off. Like, that seems like littering with extra steps.
I do think that even if you throw it out, you're still leaving the container on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter how gracefully you do the procedure of leaving it there. It's still...
Yeah. Maybe they were just like thinking, like, let's see. Maybe somebody thinks this is Fanta. Let's just leave it there for shits and giggles.
What if the bottle's biodegradable?
Suddenly, by the way, it tastes exactly like Dr. Monster. But not as... This is like decent, but not the yellow one.
That's Carl's like wine tasting guide there. This tastes like a bottle full of urine at the side of the road at an American highway.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a sponsorship. Someone asked, "Is this law in my home? Like, is this only like?" First of all, I don't live in the American embassy, which is technically would be American soil, right? For that.
Wait, who asked that question?
In chat, someone asked, "In your home?"
Your home, your rules,
Yeah. I would say probably someone would complain somewhere if I started throwing poop out of the window.
I mean, they'd have to catch you though, because where you live. I mean, if you live in an apartment building, right, and it's out the same window, they'd have to catch you because they cannot convict everyone. They have to figure out who was doing it. So
well, they would catch me quite easily because I have a mosquito net in front of my window, so it would go through it.
I thought you were going to say, like, you have mosquitoes in your poop, like, all the time, and they'd be like, that's Carl. That's the guy from the 3rd floor. The yellow shirts and the mosquitoes in his feces.
Yeah, you could never commit murder, Carl, because you're just too easily recognizable by the yellow.
I'm the bait. I'm the distraction.
No, you would kill a guy and then you would need to shit immediately and then drop a mosquito-filled deuce next to the dead body and then be caught like in a matter of 2 hours.
That's the dynamic of Külapood, is I am the distraction and then Ardo does all the killing.
You see Ardo's, they think Carl's the enforcer, but Ardo's like trained as a Shaolin monk and Kung Fu. Just bust it out and just like
from far away.
Exactly. But yeah, someone also, what was the question? Someone said that Karl is washing himself with human soap. No, I don't use soap. I use the tears of the innocent.
Detergent.
How do you collect those from an orphanage? Tears of the innocent.
With great complications. But the question was, poop out of a car. Which state is it illegal?
I think it's, I don't know, I just got the image in my head of somebody driving down the Las Vegas Strip and just flinging shit and piss out of his car and just, and that's why I'm going to say Nevada. I don't know, gut feeling.
Okay.
I'm gonna go more of a trailer park vibe, and my guess is it is Ohio.
Okay, correct opening letter there. The correct answer is Oregon. Oregon. I think the Oregon Trail. There was a lot of poop out of the wagon windows in the Oregon Trail. That's because of the dysentery. That's where the dysentery became.
Oregon's a pretty like hipster state, though, right? Portland is in Oregon, right? Which is like the hipster capital.
Yeah.
Caleb said, "Sure, man. Is that what you want to say? Sure."
Yeah.
You don't know your home country?
No. Oregon is the hipster. Oregon is the hipster capital of the world. Portland is the specific city. But fun fact. San Francisco is the city with the most public defecations of anywhere else in the United States. Like there's homeless people shitting everywhere. Like people just dropping a deuce in the middle of the street, and it's not even funny. Someone made an app where you can if you see a poop, you can tag it on a geotag, so you know where not to walk. Yeah. You just like tag it, take a picture, rate that shit.
How many stars?
That's messed up when you're like living in San Francisco and you go to work and step in human shit, and then you think like, why am I paying $20,000 a month for like a closet to live in? It's just.
And at the same time, people then start abusing you online because you ruined the 4-star shit that they made.
Exactly. You know, you got to think about how much effort that guy. He ate the right protein. He did the right amount of exercise. He's well hydrated. And, you know, it's not just a log. That's too basic. He's got like the condensed twirl.
Yeah, the ice cream.
Yeah, the ice cream.
Exactly.
Classic.
It's the model for the shit emoji.
Yeah, it's got like mosquitoes in it and shit.
Exactly.
But that means nobody wins. 0 points all around. Perfect Külapood game show.
Why are you so happy to say that? Like,
because for once, Külapood didn't lose the one time. So yeah, that's the episode for today. Caleb, is there anything you wanted to say that I didn't ask, or are there any questions you wanted to ask that I didn't ask?
Honestly, right now I don't have any real questions because I'm just enjoying
fading away.
No, it's not that I'm like struggling for human interaction, but just to be around other comedians is really nice, and to do that, just talk to stuff like podcasting is great because you can really get a lot of emotion and it jokes out and you have a conversation and it just works. So I just want to thank you guys so much for having me on. And
thank you for coming.
This has been a wonderful. I would love to come back on whenever you guys are. Whenever you need a foreigner, you just be like, maybe
whenever we're running out of guests again.
Exactly. You just don't let them know.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks guys. I really enjoyed it.
For social media, I'm at Karl-Alari Varma. So on Instagram and Twitter, follow me there. Any questions about the podcast or anything there, ask me on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. I will usually answer in 24 hours or maybe 2 or 4 or 5 days. Occasionally it takes a couple of months, but I will get back to you sometime. And then down below again, it's Ardo Asperk, and his social media is at Ardo Asperk. Is that correct?
Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and buy my show on Comedy Estonia web shop.
Yep.
Only €5.
Yes, there is his most recent hour board.
Yeah, it's an hour and 4 minutes actually.
It's in Estonian.
€5 an hour
deal.
in 4 minutes.
Yeah. So
plus credits, so an hour and 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
So that's 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 €5. So you get it for €5 is what I wanted to say, and that supports Ardo and stand up and stuff like that, and you also get something for it. And then we have Caleb Brunick at Caleb Brunick. Is this correct as well?
Yeah, it's just my name spelled CalebBrunick. Follow me there. I don't really have a backlog right now, but I've been trying to get more in the habit of posting my content onto my my Instagram, and hopefully maybe soon I'll get more stuff on the Comedy Estonia YouTube as well. But if you want a taste of me and just get about 5 or 6 minutes before you dive into my Instagram, I would recommend you going to the same YouTube channel this is on and watch my Värske Veri set. It's Caleb Brunick, an American named Kalev. So I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
About all the Estonian stuff. So
go check that out. Tomorrow we have another live at 6, and the guest is Marko Tasane. So that's gonna be fun. Join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. or 18:00, and we'll have some fun and stuff. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Bye.